My name is Phil Hughes. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor at Bowling Green State University, as well as the assistant director of outreach, and I use he, him as pronouns. And so today I'm going to talk a little bit about doing outreach on our campus and how do you really reach marginalized populations. And so this is a conversation probably since COVID, we've really been talking more intentionally about. So today I'm going to kind of walk through what things looked like for us as a university pre-COVID, kind of what it looked like during COVID, and where we are kind of now in this weird post-COVID, but not really done with COVID kind of thing that we're in. So throughout, if you can be engaged, that'd be awesome. I want to have some discussion too about what are you all doing on your campuses or wherever you work. And we'll also have some discussion about how can you take some of these things, hopefully from today, and implement them on your campus. So I want to give us some time at the end to do that as well, and just kind of talk about ideas. I think for myself at my center, that creativity really comes when I can sit with other people who want to do outreach, who enjoy doing outreach, and just let our ideas flow. And you just never know what creativity's gonna come from that. So to get us started, if you can open up this Slido, if you've never done Slido, you can scan the QR code or join at slido.com and type in that number. This is just, I kind of want to know who's in this space. Where do y'all work? What do you do in your roles? It's actually supposed to pop up, and I don't think it's going to work that way today. Scratch that. Just shout it on out. Where do you work? What do you do? Yeah.
I'm a social worker and I work at Sinclair College in Dayton.
Okay,
In
nice.
our counseling services center.
Okay, I drove through Dayton many, many times. I did my undergrad at UC. Listen, the construction's done. I went down to Cincy in March, and I was like, the construction on 75 is done. I feel like this has been happening since 2005. So, so
Yeah, I'm actually in my master's program for social work right now at Ohio State.
okay,
So I'm working out with the regional campuses where I work generally, anyways, in the counseling center.
okay.
So learning and gathering all the information.
Yeah, do you know Harry Warner? No, of Harry? Well, OSU is huge. I mean, their counseling center is like 80 people,
Yeah.
which is
And we're in Newark, so there's only 3 of us.
okay. Oh, yes,
We're a
perfect.
small one. We're small.
Okay, welcome.
Eric Smith. I'm a social worker. Also have a background in public health, and I direct the counseling center at Cincinnati State Technical and Community College.
Okay, awesome, awesome.
I'm Dal Fordstone. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor at the University of Cincinnati. I work in the counseling and psychological services office, but I'm actually an embedded clinician. And so I am the College of Design, Architecture, Art, and Planning, known as DAP,
Yep.
and Eastern College Conservatory.
Okay. Yes. DAP is a weird building.
Yeah.
It it's a it's a weird building. It's very easy to get lost. It's kind of like Hogwarts. Like you could just turn down the wrong hallway and there's just nothing there. So awesome, awesome. Love UC. All right. And my chocolate friend, my yes.
I'm Jen Rod. I also work for UC, but I work at UC Claremont, which is like Newark, a regional campus of the University of Cincinnati. I am a licensed social worker, but I don't do that at work. I work as the assistant dean of student affairs.
Okay.
So
Okay. How long have you worked at UC?
I just got there.
Okay. Okay. I knew a couple people who had worked there before. I was like, maybe you know. Mm-hmm. Julie Lindbergh. It's been a couple. Julie.
I know Julie.
Yeah. Yeah. I was on a board with Julie. Um, there were a couple people actually we interviewed for our director position when it was open. Chris. Oh, I forget his last name. And there was another individual. They had both been directors. at UC at some point in time. Had applied it at BGSU when we had a director position open. So here are the learning objectives, a little bit about pretty much what I said. We're going to talk about what colleges and universities can do in terms of outreach, leverage those community partnerships. How do you build those partnerships? I want to talk with you all a little bit about how you're doing that as well and share how we've done that and how we are changing how we do that on our campus. Talking about those partnerships, once again, what are the outreach opportunities? How do you engage other student groups? How do you get students bought into outreach? I don't know about you all, but we offer a lot of outreach programs, and sometimes students just don't come. No matter how good your presentation is, no matter how much time you put in, no matter all the variables you try to figure out to reach students. What are some of the best practices, resources, and help-seeking options that can target suicide prevention? So there's a lot out there that people can do for suicide prevention and gatekeeping. And so I want to share a little bit about some of the things we do at BGSU and things we have done. And then what are some inclusive strategies and efforts? And I think this, I can really hit on that point, and it's infused throughout, is I think it's just something when you're doing outreach you have to be intentional about. Your programs can't be cookie cutter. You can't go to, we have a Black student union on our campus. Like, you can't go and be like, you know what, self-care, just go do some yoga and it'll be fine, right? Like, really thinking and being intentional about who is in this community, what does self-care look like to them? How do you make your programs accessible? So now we have these wonderful online options for folks. We can do hybrid programming. We can do things online to increase accessibility if you have satellite campuses. And for folks who maybe have some type of disability, that might make it hard for them to come to your program. So a little bit about us. Pre-COVID, we had this program called Start the Conversation. It was our main suicide prevention program that we offered. We had partnered with our humanities troupe on our campus, which was out of our theater department. And it had 4 actors and 1 person from the counseling center. The actors would get up and they would act out all these scenes. And so it really started with, okay, what does distress look like? How do you know someone is struggling? And we kind of moved all the way to a crisis situation is how the program progressed. So these actors would get up, they'd act out scenes. It was really cool. Counseling center folks, if you are a person who likes to present, you enjoyed doing it. If you did not like presenting, you did not enjoy it. So, and it was a great program. It started in 2011. It was through the Garrett Lee Smith Suicide Prevention Grant is how the program started, and in collaboration with our Wellness Connection on campus. So it's kind of this community effort on our campus. We brought in Res Life to partner and think about, okay, Res Life has a different role on our campus. What does it look like if they come in contact with a student? Faculty and staff, if you have a student who's distressed that comes into you, that might look a little different, and you have different roles and responsibilities. How do you help a student? So it's a great program. One of the problems, it became really outdated. It was long, so it was an hour and a half, so that was a big commitment for folks from our center. It was hard to really find 4 students who had volunteered for this program also to meet at the same time that we wanted them to run the program. And so there were some barriers to that program, and we decided to change it. We started doing workshops. We had done some stress clinic types of things, like let's talk about sleep hygiene, let's talk about nutrition, let's talk about relationships and things of that nature. During COVID, we did a little switcheroo. And so, as I'm sure we all know, anxiety through the roof, main concern on college campuses with college students, according to the CCMH data. And so we created this 4-part anxiety workshop. In each section focused on something related to anxiety. There was things about exposure, behavioral interventions, cognitive interventions, acceptance-based interventions, so on and so forth. We also created a stress management one, which was 6 parts and had all these different stress management techniques, procrastination, all of that type of stuff in them. They worked. we realized after we collected data that no one was really coming to the stress management one, even though students say that they're really stressed. And we had to make some adjustments. Folks were coming to the anxiety ones. One of the barriers we ran into was it really wasn't accessible. So when we go back to talking about accessibility, how do you make things accessible to your students? Students had to come into our counseling center, they had to go through an initial appointment, then they could be referred to the workshop. And so there were a lot of barriers in the way for students to become or just join these workshops. So we had to look a little bit at how we're going to change that, which I'm going to talk about here in the future. Has anybody heard of grit? Be gritty, but like Angela Duckworth grit. No? Okay, yeah. Awesome. So Angela Duckworth, she's this author. She had written this book called Grit, and she talks a lot about people have a goal. They have a goal that they want to achieve, and you have to have multiple ways to get there. So if you kind of think about it like a pyramid, whatever your goal is at the top, you might have lots of options of how you can get your goal at the bottom. And then as you start to move up, there are less options, right? And sometimes you hit a snag and you're like, okay, that's not going to work. Let me try this instead. And so it's really like building this resilience and things like this. So we would hold some programs to talk about this is what grit is, and we would have people do a really tough activity. Do you remember the Cups song from Pitch Perfect? Like they did the whole thing with the solo cup. So we would have students do that and be like, it's really hard, right? Like you have to practice a lot to get good at it, and that's okay because if you have a grit, then you can practice, you can reach your goal. It just takes practice over and over if you really want to reach a goal. And we held some tabling that was really passive in our union and would talk about, hey, come do this tough activity, balance an Oreo on your nose and try and get it in your mouth. Come do all these just different things. There was a lot of pushback with the word grit from some of the individuals on our staff. It really got watered down as well over time. And thinking about what was happening socio-politically, we were like, we got to get rid of this program. We have to rename it, do something different because this isn't fitting, one, with what our staff are saying, but also what our students are needing. Some of our students are tired of being told they just have to be resilient, right? Or it doesn't take into account necessarily the barriers that folks from marginalized populations might be facing. During COVID, we started this program called Rest and Protest. So I believe it's Trisha Hershey. It's out of New York. She is an individual in New York. She has a program called the NAP Ministry. And so our program was based off of that, where people think that rest is earned and really reframing it as, no, rest is just something that we're allowed to do. We don't have to work for rest. You don't have to prove your value to be able to rest, and how this really resonates with marginalized populations of like, you always have to be working, you can never take rest, so on and so forth. So during the pandemic and all the things that were happening, the murder of George Floyd, so on and so forth, we created this program based off of that called Rest and Protest, where folks could come. We would talk a little bit about the NAP ministry and her program, and then folks could just have that time to kind of rest and sit. Great in theory. It was attended somewhat for folks, and it was also an opportunity for our staff at the time who needed rest themselves. And so we used it for a while and then kind of got rid of it. We were really trying to think, how do we reach marginalized populations at this time who really need support, who I think have been forgotten a lot of times when it comes to outreach, especially at our center, and trying to reach them in this social justice oriented type of way. We also started a program called It's Okay to Not Be Okay, which I feel like is a really big slogan throughout COVID, just saying, hey, it's all right if you're struggling. And so we held some brown bag lunches, come, let's just talk about the things that you're stressed out about. We had one for students, and then we had a separate one for faculty and staff because we knew faculty and staff are also struggling on our campuses and they also need support. So, after a while, actually, this past year, we kind of got rid of the student one. No students were coming and kept it up for faculty and staff in partnership with our HR department and our EAP. And so we continued these conversations on a monthly basis, just allowing staff to come and talk about the stressors that they're experiencing on campus, those transitions back, having students who still want to do hybrid and have some of these demands that they want. We recently kind of pawned that off on our HR department as we've been reevaluating what is our role on our campus and reevaluating that. And so that's a program we did for a couple years, and I think with any program you have to reevaluate. Is this doing what we wanted it to do? Is it still serving its purpose, our mission, so on and so forth. And then we offer traditional outreach and tabling and presentations. So we have a wide variety of programming that we offer: anxiety management, test anxiety, how do you help a student who's distressed, suicide prevention, so on and so forth. So I've kind of shared what we've done at BG. What are some of the programs y'all run on your campuses? Whether that's suicide prevention or just in general programs that you offer. Yeah.
We do QBR for students and for staff faculty, for suicide prevention. Um, we've tried especially since coming back from COVID, tried a slew of different things to try to get, students involved. We're technically a community college, even though we do offers and bachelor's degrees, so we still have a lot of online. So our on-campus population has really dwindled.
Mhm.
But online reach out hasn't really worked either. In the past, we did lots of workshops, that were poorly attended. Despite students saying, like you said, this is what we want to hear about, they didn't go over well. We tried having small conversations, we called it conversations with a counselor, and we would have we scheduled them out, had different topics for each one. A couple students came to a couple up. Now, this year, we did more just like outreach tables, catch students in between classes, have something for them to take. We did anxiety screenings, depression screenings, stress screenings to start that conversation with them, and that has really, right now, has worked the best for us. Just kind of being out there and pulling students in to talk about those topics that are the big ones that they express needing help with.
Do you feel like, I'm sorry, do you feel like?
No, go ahead.
Screenings?
Well, they're just at our outreach tables, so we're just like, we've had more students stop at those than we've ever had come to a presentation. There's only 2 of us in our counseling office, so, and now still have a hybrid schedule ourselves, so we do it on alternating days when we're on campus. There are times to try to find what time is the best. And I've actually scheduled students for appointments right there. So that has been what has worked best for us
Yeah.
right now.
Like in-your-face services.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and I think for counseling, seeing somebody that you're gonna talk to makes a huge difference.
Mhm.
It helps break down that fear of it.
Well, right, it's a lot less intimidating if we've already had a conversation.
Mhm.
You already feel like, oh yeah, maybe I could talk to that person. We kind of stopped scheduling our own presentations and workshops and stuff, but we will go to classes if instructors ask us to come to classes, which happens fairly regularly too.
Okay.
About a variety of different topics.
Okay. So doing some QPR, this outreach tabling has really been successful. As you were talking, it made me think about barriers that people face too, being in such a small office or having not a large number of people in your office, or if your office is just strained. We are, especially if you work in, I'm sure we all are, if you work in a college setting, right, there are lots of demands. We wear lots of different hats, we have lots of different roles, we're asked to do lots of different programming, and that can be a lot. And so, really trying to figure out how do you balance all these things? How do you do outreach that's successful when you only have 2 or 3 people in your office at the same time? It's a lot. So, okay, thanks for sharing. Yeah.
We, again, same kind of thing, although I wrote the screening tables down, because that's awesome. So a couple of, not unique, but, well, one of them's unique, I think one of them's not. But we have our orientation come to our, sorry, our counselor come to our orientation sessions. So again, we sort of normalize mental health, like, hey, like, here's accessibility resources, and here's the library, and here's our counselor. So that way people get to see her, and, you know, she's got some information there, and then, you know, maybe they're like, oh, that was Whitney, I can go back and see her. But one of the things that she's also started doing is at the end of every semester, she's partnered with some other resources on campus, and they do like a stress less fest. And so, you know, they have the therapy dogs and
Oh, yes.
people
Mhm.
are there. But one of the things that she just kind of took on herself is she has students put together a coping kit. And so she goes to like the dollar store or like Oriental Trading. And then they pick up a little bag, and you know, we all have free stuff, right? Like we're all going to that table. And so you can pick up like, oh, I don't have, oh, I, like the little fidgets, like they make them in little sizes. I stole one. She has like, you know, just little things, some candy, like a pencil, the sensory stickers that you can put on the back of your phone. And then students love that. And again, they might be thinking like, oh, I'm just getting free stuff.
Right.
But it's a way for them to interact with her in a very safe way. And then she gets some referrals out of that. Like they're like, hey, I met you at the dog thing.
Yeah.
You know, can I sign up? So again, that was just something she kind of initiated on her own, but it's been pretty successful.
I love that. We've done some things. It's not through the counseling center, it's through our wellness connection on campus, who we do a lot of partnerships with. We do mindfulness trainings, we do QPR, mental health first aid, and all of those great things. And I'm co facilitating a grant, the GLS grant, with them as well right now to work on a peer to peer program on our campus. But our therapy dog program started last year, maybe year and a half. It was a passion project for a graduate student who was a social worker that was an intern at the Wellness Connection, and it has completely taken off. Our students love the therapy dogs. You can now schedule little 15-minute or 30 minutes with your own therapy dog, and it's just this huge program that's taken off. They really love it.
Yeah, the therapy dog works. Yeah,
The
when
students love it.
when I first started, I'm new to university mental health, but they told me like, you know, you're gonna want to take Sammy. And that dog is amazing.
So to clarify, Sammy goes to work every day in their office.
He works.
Love
It's
it.
not like I'm bringing in a free
Yeah,
dog.
we
Sammy
have one
is,
of the outside agency come during
Okay.
exam time. They come. to
Sammy
campus.
lives there.
He
That's
he
nice.
works at CAPS, he has a badge, he has a card, he is the man. And then he just knows how to engage. That he's a service dog that's specifically for anxiety, autism, and depression. So he can tell. And he will go and harass those kids. He will harass the students, and then he just lays on the floor. It could be a circle of students, and he will be in the middle of the circle holding court.
Yeah.
So if you have, well, we learned with our tabling, if we have snacks and Sammy, they will stop. I do a monthly wellness, the first Friday of every month at 6 a.m. we do a wellness thing. So we'll have a little topic. I think one was, how are you feeling? And so they had to mark on emojis what they were feeling like. And then we were able to give them information. For our African American students, I did something called Sip and Spill. And so it was, they could bring their they could bring their drink of choice as long as it was non-alcoholic, and they could spill tea. And they could tell me everything that was going on. It was not attended well, but it's something that we're gonna do again. And so I had music going, and they, because they wanted a clinician of color. So I wanted them to know that their voices were heard and that we're here. Let's see, what else do we do? We are the outreach kings and queens. The majority of our job is outreach. And me and Bennett, we did 62% of
Whew.
our outreach this past year. So we're pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
We've had, what was it, Fresh Tech Day, where we had all these tables, and then they had games and free ice cream, and we did it outside on the great, whatever that thing is. So it's like stress reduction or whatever, coping skills, and then we just introduce ourselves, and then they can book with us. We do Let's Talks. We do an hour. Actually, they're all over campus, so we do multiple hours of those. Any student can drop by for 10 to 15 minutes, get to know us, ask a question. It's not therapy, and then they can book a session if they want.
Great. Yeah, it sounds like if you get a therapy dog, your participation at your events will increase by 500%. So, yeah, yeah.
See me later because don't pay for a dog. Come to me later and I'll talk to you about how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, our program,
I'm not kidding.
our person, Ashley, who is our wellness ambassador specifically with a focus on mental health, she has dog handlers come in. So we haven't had to pay for dogs, volunteers, and obviously there's a contract and all that good stuff to cover yourself legally. But yeah, we haven't paid for a dog. We've got a dog now at our office. So our director just adopted a dog, and Percy is going through training to become a therapy dog. So he has brought life and increased morale in our office. So that's always an option too for you. So as far as I shared kind of where we have been, where we are, and I want to talk a little bit about the direction we're headed. So until last year, we had never done anything on our campus for Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, which was just kind of shocking to me. So as I took over, I was an outreach coordinator, kind of just named myself that because that's what I was doing. And now I'm the assistant director of outreach. So that's how those things happen. And I was like, how are we not doing anything for Suicide Prevention Awareness Month on our campus? That just seems wild. It's in September. This is right when students are getting here. They're still captivated before the semester goes on. And they're like, I don't want to go do anything. So last year, we started a couple of different programs. I partnered with the Wellness Connection. Like I said, I do a lot of partnerships with them. We did a small little walk across our campus. And so if you're familiar with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, they do their Out of Darkness walk every year, and you can partner with them, which we'll be doing this year, hopefully, to bring a walk to our campus next spring. But we created our own. We had our director of health and well-being come and speak. Our director at the counseling center shared a few words, and folks just came and walked across campus, and we had those poster boards you can get, and folks just wrote messages of hope on them, and we posted them on social media. So very simple, wasn't really labor intensive to make happen, and we did that. Last year, we have several green spaces on our campus, but one of my ideas was I wanted to place flags down. And so I got some flags. I had marketing make up some posters for me with different facts about suicide, and specifically college students, warning signs, resources. There were 6 different signs, and we put those in the ground for a week as kind of this passive campaign where students could stop and just kind of look and walk around. So that was a new thing that we did. We did a movie screening. So if any of you are familiar with the musical Dear Evan Hansen, It touches upon mental health issues in the musical. And so we partnered with our big student organization on our campus. They paid for the rights for the movie. They handed out these like inflatable chair things. I don't even know. They had like 100, and you just like, I don't know, you just whipped them and it turned into a couch. It was the weirdest thing. Um, but you got to know what the students want. So we showed the movie. We had a brief little discussion afterwards with folks, and held that. This year we're doing a lot more. Probably some very similar things. We'll do a walk. We'll do the flags. We're going to show some type of documentary, to be determined yet what that will be. But there are a lot more campus partnerships that are happening. So we're going to do Take 5 to Save Lives, if you've heard of that program. It's a 5-minute, like, gatekeeper type of training. It's free, and each section takes 1 minute to do. And you can take a pledge to complete these 5 educational modules, and then you can kind of hand out whatever you would like on your campus. So that's what we did last year. People signed up. Once you completed it, you got a little giveaway. I am also speaking with our dining services, and so thinking about when we were listening to the keynotes before this, thinking about those partnerships that you wouldn't necessarily think about, like dining and campus ops, and those folks are probably not the first people who come to mind, right? You think about wellness and faculty and staff, so on and so forth. And so I just had a conversation with our director of dining yesterday about how can we do some programming within dining. And so we're working on identifying, they're going to turn one of their stations to just teal and purple foods twice a month in September. And we're going to talk with, we have a teaching kitchen on our campus where students can go and learn and how to cook. And so we're going to maybe do something with pretzels and get sanding sugar that's teal and purple, and they can make the pretzel into a ribbon. And so just coming up, once again, you can be really creative, which is the thing I love about outreach, is you can just come up with really cool ideas and then try to implement them, right? And try and find those campus partners. It's a lot of reaching out is really what it is coming up with ideas, talking with other people. If you're not a part of listservs that are related to outreach, finding some and joining those, because there are a lot of great ideas on some listservs. So we're going to partner with them. We're partnering with Firelands, which is our remote campus, to offer some other things and do some QPR training, do some mental health first aid, which are newer programs that we've introduced on our campus. During Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, we also typically hold a panel discussion that we call Erase the Stigma. And so it's usually 4 or 5 folks. These can be staff, students, faculty, and they come and share their story about mental health, if they've had mental health struggles or they know of somebody who has had mental health struggles in their family, usually more so them. And people can kind of sit and share what their experiences have been, how they've overcome that, how they maybe still struggle. It's a great opportunity. The 2 people who are actually on last year's panel are doing things with our counseling center. So one, she is my graduate assistant for the grant, and I met her through that after I heard her story and her struggles with mental health. And she's in our mental health program on campus, and I was like, you should really apply for this graduate assistantship that we have. And it's been really great to have her. Another individual, they're going for their PhD, and she is going to be one of our peer leaders for our peer-to-peer groups when we get those started. So you also don't know when you run programs like this who you might find to connect with, how there might be other campus partnerships within there that, once again, like you weren't expecting to have. I talked a little bit about QPR and mental health first aid. We're also creating a mental health advocate certificate or something of that nature. I'm not quite sure what the name will be yet, but if our faculty, staff, or students on our campus complete QPR, the complete mental health first aid. We also offer It's Real through the counseling center as a suicide prevention program. Then they will get a certificate saying that they're a mental health advocate on our campus. And so you can also do things like that on your campus to get folks engaged. We've had some opportunities. I can't say that this is something that I went out and sought. It sought me. So I had a couple classes who were doing a program and they wanted to come and do some fundraising for the counseling center. So we've had folks who have created stickers and had a sticker contest and donated that money then to the counseling center. I had a class who wanted to do these, like, I think they were like boo pops. So they got like Tootsie Roll pops and blow pops and dressed them up as ghosts. And then there was a message about mental health attached to them in our counseling center. And they donated that money willingly to the counseling center as well. And so there might be opportunities when you think about making partnerships maybe with your faculty staff or other campus groups that you might have related to mental health, where there might be these opportunities to do some fundraising, because we all know we won't turn away any extra money that comes our way, right? And then, like I said, really taking it all into account. So as you're creating partnerships, as you're creating programs, for me, and one of the things I challenge the people I supervise and other campus partners sometimes as well, is how do we make things accessible? And looking at that really broadly, who are we going and talking to? How do we make sure we're not creating barriers for students to come to our programs? And if we are, what are the solutions to that? Can we record it? Can we post it online? We have our Wellness Connection in the spring and summer. They have this like smoothie bike, so folks can get on and they can ride and make their own smoothie. And I was like, but how is this accessible? Like, what if there's someone who doesn't have legs? So, like, are we thinking about these things? And that's fine if you still want to do it. How do we have other activities then that other people can engage in who might have a disability? How do we talk about mental health on our campuses and so it's not stigmatized? One of the, I would say a big partnership that we've started this past year too with our new director is with our academic affairs. And so we started a really close relationship with our vice provost, and he is all about mental health. We talk a lot about mental health and retention for our students. The data that is out there that shows addressing mental health helps retention. So that's always a winning point for most people. And then getting your faculty and staff on board, because we know they have a lot of contact with these students as well. And so giving them the tools, that might be some education. If you have some type of center on your campus that speaks to faculty, so we have a Center for Faculty Excellence, and they do some promotional, educational programming. We partner a lot with them. Hey, can we get in front of your faculty and staff and talk about this is what we do at the Counseling Center? Last week I did a presentation on, like, this is what distress is. This is not what distress is. Here's a crisis, here's not a crisis. Right? Like, here's when you might want to send somebody over to our EM coverage versus no. Like, how do you help them? Because people are human, right? And they have reactions, and if you're not in this field, sometimes that's really tough. And we just have to educate people. That's part of our job as well. So I think about this like meeting campus partners halfway. Whoever those campus partners are, it's a give and take. It's a relationship. To go into a partnership and say, hey, here's what I need. How can I support you? I think a lot of times we'll go into partnerships and be like, here are all the things I need. I need A through Z. Can you get me A through Z? Great. Awesome. Thanks. And we have to take a little pause and be like, okay, so here's how you're going to help me. How can I help you? And maybe that's just in a small way. Hey, can you promote this thing for me? Can you promote this program for me? Can you send this flyer out on a listserv? We have TVs in lots of our buildings. And so, hey, we want to put this program up on a TV screen. What do you need from me? How can I help you in your area? And so I think it's really meeting people halfway. I think about that Black Eyed Peas song. And so building those partnerships, we're starting JED Campus as well in the fall. And so if you are not a JED Campus, if you have not gone through that process, it's all about building campus partnerships. There's a lot of that. And I think it's really helped us think about reaching those people you wouldn't expect to reach. So when I was talking about dining services and campus ops and those folks that it's just like, oh yeah, like why? People in dining see students every single day. They see students who pass them, and maybe could be a point of contact and say something like, "Hey, you seem like you're struggling. How can I help you? Do you know the supports on campus?" Same thing with campus ops. They're out mowing, tending our campus, fixing things on our campus, and they might come in contact with students who are struggling and could do something and could be another point of contact. So I think about it really broadly, right? Be creative. Don't be boxed in. One of the things I have folks do if they're coming to an interview with us, a staff clinician, well, really any, is they have to do a clinical presentation. And so show me your clinical skills. But I also have them do an outreach presentation. And so I say, show me your creativity. Sky's the limit. You don't have a budget, right? Because budgets constrict people. Be creative. Show me what you have. Show me what you think students need, because that's also part of it, is knowing what our students need, who these students are. This is Gen Z, and if we're not connecting with them, if we don't know what they need, how to talk to them, then we're going to miss on those educational pieces. I just learned what a Borg was yesterday. Does everybody know what a Borg is? Okay, so thank you. Okay, well, yes. Okay, so it is a blackout rage gallon. Right, so they will.
You pour a fifth of vodka in, you pour like some type of other,
Mhm. Or like a liquid IV, or like,
IV or something, and then like another mixer to IV. It's a hydration, like a powder mix, like a Pedialyte. Powder. Yeah. And then some other type of mixer like Hawaiian Punch or fruit
Yep.
juice or something.
it's like their own little handheld jungle juice.
Yes,
Exactly.
that's how I heard it described.
And you drink it.
And so, yeah, I know. I was like, what? What? Like, wow, that's a lot of alcohol, first of all. Uh, but just thinking about, like, we have to stay up on these things. We have to know how to connect with these students and what they need. We're actually going to use it more as a harm reduction technique. So I think some people might be like, oh, crap, like a gallon of vodka, right? That's a lot. Or a fifth of vodka is a lot. Yes, and they're staying hydrated. It's their own container that they're keeping. So maybe also there is less risk for your drink being roofied, right? There can be some preventative things that way. And so these kids are smarter than we probably give them credit for. But yeah, just thinking, how do we connect as well with the students that we're serving? And that's forever changing as we work in this field, right? The generations come, they go, the terminology changes, what they're doing changes, what their needs are changes. This is a very unique group that we have right now, and they're very in tune with their mental health. But I also think we were talking earlier about, I don't know what my time is. We were talking earlier about, okay, students and how they're not coming to programs. And so we've had a lot of conversations of how does it add value to their life? These students are out there hustling hardcore, sometimes have two jobs and are going to class and have families to take care of, or are helping their families. There's all the socio-political things that are happening. How do we make whatever we're going to offer to them add value to their life so they actually come to our programs you're not going to be able to eliminate all the variables, right? You're not going to be able to pin down the perfect time that students are going to show up, because I'm pretty sure that's impossible no matter what you do. So, how does it add value? This is a conversation we're having a lot at my center and on my outreach team that I have. I have a great group coordinator, and it was a question that he posed of like, how does this add value to their life? If it's a drop-in group, if it's a workshop, if it's a presentation, just something fun that we're trying to do, we have to make it something that they want to go to. They don't want to sit and be talked at for an hour about anxiety. They know they've got Dr. Google and TikTok, right? Like, which that's its own thing. That is not this presentation. Um, but they have a lot of tools out there where they could get information or misinformation. And so, how do we add value to the programs that we're offering to them? Pretty quickly, so I had just mentioned we started offering drop-in groups this past fall, a whole variety of them. So some of you were talking about you have very limited staff, and thinking about how do we reach students, how do we reach marginalized students more specifically. Access to services, they're stigmatized for certain groups, right? We know they're underutilized for people of color, our LGBTQ students. I don't know about your campus, but the counseling center is like home to them. So like we do not have a problem reaching that population, but there are populations we do have trouble with, right? And so here's a way that reduced barriers and access, and we just open it up. Come drop in. It's virtual, some of them are in person, and there's a whole wide variety. We had a BIPOC drop-in support group, grief and loss, body image. We started a neurodivergent one in the spring. I'm going to start a chronic illness and disability one in the fall. Struggling with a chronic illness myself, and I just hear students talking about this. I'm like, yeah, we're not thinking about this. Anxiety, yeah,
Students have to go through like an intake process?
no.
Okay, so they just show up.
Nope, just show up. We put it on, we have an events calendar on our front page of our website. And so if it's virtual, we put the registration link in there because we have them register. If it's in person, they just come to our center or come somewhere on campus. Our center is more on the north side of campus and kind of away from everything. And so it's not easily accessible for all people. And so once again, trying to think about that, we're also right beside our police station, campus police, which presents a barrier, especially for our students of color. So like we already know they're not utilizing our services, and then you have to walk like past campus police to get to our center, which can be pretty stigmatizing.
Question about the drop-in.
Yeah.
Do you have multiple ones? Is it one group, single session?
Yeah, I mean, any more so single session, any topic. They were running, I think we started weekly for each type of group. And then if students didn't come, we kind of had a protocol for, okay, now we're going to move to biweekly. Okay, no one's still coming. We're going to make a video to post online and on our Instagram page. And so we kind of set up different protocols. And then after that, if no one's coming, then we're just not going to do it. And we'll use that as a clinical hour instead. And so, yeah, we have lots of conversations. What are the drop-in groups that we need? And that might be different for all of our campuses. I talked a little bit about workshops earlier. We just recreated our anxiety workshop. It's now just a one session anxiety workshop for an hour and a half, and really focusing on skills. So really thinking about what value we need to add value to these students' lives, or the workshop is going to need to add value. And so let's give them skills. That's what they want. They don't care about the theory. They want to know how. How do I reduce my feelings of anxiety? And if I can learn some skills in an hour and a half to do that, awesome. We're going to be offering a depression workshop that we're working on, and that'll be a one-time, like hour and a half workshop that we launch in the fall, as well as a 3-part relationship workshop that we're working on. I talked a little bit earlier that we offer It's Real. So if you don't know this program, it's through the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. Really good program. It follows college students who experience mental health coming into their college years or through their college years. I like it because there's actually diversity in it, and hearing about diverse experiences is really good. They're actually college students, they actually have mental illness. These are not actors who experience these things. And if you're looking for something that is easy for you to do, it's under an hour. So I'd say about 40 minutes. It comes with facilitation guides, the video, all that good stuff. And if you buy it online, I think it's like $80. So if you think about like reusable value as well, you can show it as many times as you want. That's a pretty good deal compared to other programs that we might pay for. And I feel like it's pretty engaging. You can get students engaged in it. We started a Let's Talk program, so I know you had shared about Let's Talk. We just started in February. No one came, but that's okay. We expected that to happen. So we partnered with athletics, so also thinking about like maybe partnerships that you wouldn't typically have. Thinking about, yeah, athletes don't come to us normally, at least at our center, and so how do we reach them? So we partnered with athletics. We partnered with our Office of Multicultural Affairs, which I do other work with, and then we had a virtual option. Moving into the fall, this thing is blowing up. We have 8 different partnerships, and we're going to be in 8 different places on campus, including some virtual options. So we're working with our College of Education, our College of Music, our College of Health and Human Services, OMA, athletics, virtual. And so it's really taking off. And my goal is to have one every single day. So there will be an option every single day for folks. We talked about suicide prevention. And really just, I believe the best is yet to come. We're making a lot of changes at our center. And I hope as we were talking today, you got some ideas. Some people shared some things that they do as well at their centers. And I hope that sparks some innovation for you all. And like I said earlier, I think just be creative. Be creative, get on listservs, build those campus partnerships that you wouldn't typically expect to build, or those people that you're like, they're not going to be invested in mental health. They're not going to care. They might actually surprise you. And if you can get help with the work, even better, right? We know this work can be really tough. And thinking about JED, because I told you all that we're joining JED and going to start that in the fall, they talk about mental health being a campus-wide problem and solution. Like it's not just our counseling centers or our wellness centers that are dealing with mental health. Like everybody can help contribute and everybody can play a part in helping make sure that we're building a climate on our campuses that is conducive to people talking about mental health, working on their mental health, promoting mental health, so on and so forth. Questions? Cool. I briefly said too, I forgot to mention it, we're starting a peer-to-peer program in the fall. So we know that's a thing folks want. And we're also working on a mobile crisis. So we have one for our county, for Wood County has a mobile crisis unit through one of our community mental health agencies, and they attend everybody in Wood County. We're creating one specifically for our campus. So we're partnering with our School of Social Work to see if we can get some interns who would be willing to go out. But if there's a mental health crisis on campus, really reducing barriers and making it more accessible and reducing the wait time, sending out a student who can help with a crisis versus sending out a police officer. And so it's not a thing that's happening on a lot of campuses. And so we're really excited to work on that and bring that to our campus.